Hi, Joni here. Is Elon Musk a Russian sleeper agent? That will be the topic of today's video. Have you ever wondered if Musk or Trump could be Russian or Chinese agents? I have, and many others have too. There are good reasons for that. First of all, if Russia or China would give the task to one of their agents to destroy the US internally, and to do so without getting caught, that agent couldn't do a better job than what Trump and Musk are doing right now. Everything this administration does and says benefits Russia and China. And it actually makes no sense for them to do that, because they are populists. And populists are supposed to say and do what voters want them to. Most Americans support Ukraine, and even a large share of Republicans do. There are no electoral or economic reasons for the US to side with Russia over Ukraine. Yet this administration still does. And we know that both Musk and Trump have some ties to Russia. They keep defending Russian interests and repeating Russian talking points. Musk and Trump were both rumored to be in touch with Putin before the elections. And other rumors claim that there was Russian money involved in Elon Musk buying Twitter. Musk and Russia both did as much as possible to get Trump re-elected. And on top of that, Musk also supports pro-Russian political parties in Europe. Musk doesn't only have ties to Russia, he also has big ties to China through his businesses. What's interesting with Musk and Trump is that they never criticize Russia and China. However, even with these ties, we still don't know for sure if they are just useful idiots, or opportunists, or if they're being blackmailed, or if they actually are foreign agents. We don't have clear proof, and because of that we can only speculate. However, there is more. This morning I talked with a good friend of mine and he came up with a point that I had not thought about. As some of you may know, I took my master's degree in a school called MGIMO in Moscow. MGIMO is the University of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia, and it produces Russia's diplomats. And as most of you know, many of Russia's diplomats are also intelligence agents. Because of that, MGIMO also teaches courses that you would not find in a Western university that produces diplomats. And I had one of those courses. It was called Strategic Intelligence. It was basically an Intelligence 101 course that taught basics about intelligence gathering and what states do with intelligence. And it was taught by a professor called Andrei Bezrukov, who also used to be known as Donald Hethfield. He's a famous Russian sleeper agent who acted as a spy in the US until he got arrested in 2010. Some of you may have watched a TV show called The Americans. That show was inspired by his life. And this man was teaching us this course on strategic intelligence. It was an interesting course, but that was in 2016 and I had not thought about it for a long time. But this morning I talked with this good friend of mine who went to the same school, and he asked me if I had noticed the parallels between the professor's life and Elon Musk's life. And this may seem a bit far-fetched for now, and it is, but bear with me, I will explain. The Soviet Union was extremely good at using sleeper agents, and so is Russia. However, they have some major weaknesses in terms of centralized bureaucracy and processes. If you catch one of their agents and look at patterns, you have a high likelihood of finding other ones as well. As an example, a few years back, Bellingcat was looking at GRU hackers and it found that many of them had registered their cars at the same address. And this was data that was actually publicly available. It's just one example, but they are a bit sloppy sometimes. These centralized bureaucracy and decentralized processes make them sloppy. They're not very flexible and some things just need to be done a certain way. And they leave traces because of that. Why do I say all of this? Well, the professor I had in Moscow went to the US going through Canada and taking a Canadian citizenship. He first went to several universities, including in Canada, and then moved to the US to study there. After that, he had a successful career in the US in the private sector and was acting as a sleeper agent at the same time. Russian sleeper agents are placed there for years. They slowly build a career, become successful, and create networks. And they get called up when they are needed. It seems that Soviet and Russian sleeper agents like to go to the US through Canada and as students, because that's a very practical way to do it and gives them a good story. And obviously this seems a bit far-fetched, and Musk is not very likely to be a Russian sleeper agent. But Russia has used many sleeper agents over the years, including foreign ones. And there are a few cases I advise you to read on if you're interested. Jan Marsalek and the Wirecard case is a really interesting one. He wasn't just responsible for Germany's biggest financial fraud in history. He was also a decade-long Russian spy. And he's now hiding in Russia. And it's a story that's similar enough so that once you've read it, you might actually understand why I'm making this video. And there are other cases too. The Kinahan cartel also had links to Russia. Russia has sleeper agents everywhere. Some of them are in very high positions. And not all of them are Russians. Musk's story has some parallels with Jan Marsalek's story, but also with my professor in Moscow. And again, I'm not saying that Musk is a Russian sleeper agent. It's unlikely. I'm just saying that there are some interesting parallels, and these parallels would usually mean nothing. But Musk is a South African, corrupt, pro-Russian billionaire who managed to seize power in the US. And on top of that, he keeps pushing Russian propaganda and pushing Russian interests by supporting pro-Russian candidates around the world. The ex-head of the FSB, Nikolai Patrushev, also said something interesting recently. He gave an interview where he said that Trump had obligations towards certain people that had helped him get elected. And because of all these things, the parallels are much more interesting than they should be. And even if Musk is unlikely to be a sleeper agent, he's surrounded by people that could be. And it's not random that Musk and Trump are both pushing Russian propaganda and siding with Russia over the US. They are betraying the US and its allies. And that's why people need to try to understand why they are doing this, and that explains why I made this video. Hopefully some of you will look into it and maybe find some parallels that I have missed. Don't hesitate to write something in the comments if you know more. So to answer the question, it's very unlikely that Elon Musk is a Russian sleeper agent. But we live in such a crazy world that it's not fully impossible neither. And I'm convinced that there are some things that we have missed and that could explain why Musk and Trump support Russia so much. I hope that some of you will look into it. That was it for today's video. I hope that you liked it. If you did, please like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.